Imagine a vibrant discussion between people that includes both openness and critical thought in the pursuit of truth. The Purchasing Truth podcast is an experience, a journey, an exploration of the impact that negative messages in politics and the media have on our families, community, society, and nation. Join your hosts, Bill Stierle and Tom to discover new concepts and language strategies that will reveal effective ways of establishing truth. This podcast series will tackle current events, leadership challenges, healthcare confusion, integrity in business, and many other areas that affect us all. Gain clarity and understanding of the various truth perspectives. Welcome to Purchasing Truth.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Purchasing Truth. I'm Tom Hazard, along with your host, Bill Stierle. And, Bill, today we have, again, another current event that is sort of the departure point for our conversation today. And I'm really interested to have this discussion because what it leads us to is what we're calling only the soundbite counts. And I'll just set this up quickly. So there was a House Judiciary Committee hearing that really was sort of shockingly, off the rails. And that's my own labeling of it. At some point.
Well, it was it was an investigation of the Justice Department and whether or not the Attorney General stepped across the line regarding sentencing and made the law political and did political favors inside the legal, which is something that has not been done up to this point, but now it's been done. So that's the thing that's kind of really, really unsettling here is that politics has crossed the line over to law, which it's something that really hasn't done as per the testimony of the three different people that talked about their experiences inside the Justice Department. So yeah, the all of a sudden there was somebody tapping on the table while somebody was giving their testimony, and that was a little bit tough to witness.
Yeah, and so you're right, Bill, that the actions going on within the Justice Department are unsettling enough. But then in this hearing, when Representative Louie Gohmert of Texas, did not want to allow the witness to finish their opening statement because I guess it was going over the official allotted time that he had for that statement. He starts banging on the table or tapping his microphone and being disruptive. And to me, that in some ways is even more unsettling than what they're there trying to investigate in the first place. Because I think we should all want to have oversight and make sure that, our government is not, exceeding their authority and is serving the people. And this representative cared more about following the rules of the hearing than hearing what the witness has to say. And that kind of behavior, to me, it was an example of, I feel like this is where our country has been brought down to. It started with campaigning. It started with soundbite campaigning, and we've gotten to a place of soundbite governing. And how did we get here, Bill? How did we get here?
Well, soundbite governance is something that I've thought about for a little bit in regards to the concept of purchasing truth. Is you're really trying to get the bias of what the voter is, the thing that's going to motivate them. You're not as much interested in truth. Truth has got to go out the door a little bit because I want to do something to get the voter out and to vote for me. I want them to vote with something. I want to push their buttons so they come, not just to come out to vote because it's a civic thing to do, but I want them to have an enraged motivation to vote for my cause. So the more I trickle them with soundbite messages that activate their bias, then the more voters I'm going to get out. Now, that's one sword you can swing, but you got to be careful because there's a back end to that sword too. Because if the person loses, and in the place of when they're have so much invested in their bias, they become violent on the other side because, wait a minute, I've been yelling and screaming about this and you've enraged me. So I'm now going to take my enragement on the people and the messages of who's the person that is, advocating for this. So as you and I have seen in the past, I'd rather be Russian than a Democrat. It's like, I'm not sure if that person knows the T-shirt that they're wearing would not be allowed in Russia. It's like you can't say, I'd rather be an American than this other party in Russia. It's like, that's not helpful. But and in Russia, you would never be able to wear and express yourself that way because they don't allow counter messages to take place. And there's some problems with that. And it's a little bit of the weakness of our First Amendment is that you get to say stuff, you get to express yourself, and you get to sell it, but not at the expense of the greater good. But that's where the line is crossed, is you get to say things and it's allowed to be promoted even if it's not in alignment with the Constitution, even if it's not in alignment with the greater good, because your First Amendment, you get to express yourself the way you want to. It's like, no, you don't. You don't get to say something derogatory about hurting somebody else. You don't get to do that. Now, when somebody is in the movies, they get to express themselves fully because that person is either the hero or the villain, and they get to express themselves fully. And whether the law is going to catch them or not, we'll have to see about that. Oh, they're going to get it by the end of the movie, or they didn't get it by the end of the movie. Again, that's the fun of fiction, is we get to play those voices out. But
Bill, if only this were fiction. If only this were fiction, really.
We have a fictional character right now that is a reality show, but it's not a reality show. I've been on a reality show. It's not reality. They script those things to make them interesting. And so when we take a look at truth and only the soundbite counts, is because it's literally getting the bias to be realized and reinforced. I'm activating the bias inside the person to such an extent to create a disparity to this other party and assign this. So Rudy Giuliani literally got on the TV and made the statement, Black Lives Matters wants to take away your house, your housing. I'm going like, that's not even in the radar of truth. And I mean, you and I could look up the Rudy Giuliani quote, and I'm thinking, it's like, so the soundbite gets to be promoted to inflame the bias of race, and the enemy of race is coming to get the things I have. And meanwhile, all of us folks that are sitting on the place of, well, I don't know, is there any evidence or is there any truth to that? The answer is it doesn't matter if there's evidence and truth, because the soundbite is the thing that is counting, because it's reinforcing the bias. It's going to realize that somebody is going to take something because I've always believed they're going to take something, and I've been listening to Fox News for the last 8-10 years, and they're going to take something because they've taken things from me before, because that bias has been repeated, not because they've actually done it, but the bias has become a reality. The promotion of an associative truth has become evidence where it's not evidence. It's associating immigrants with violence. Why? Well, for the last 30 years on TV and movies, who are you going to cast as the evil guy? Not the white guy. The white guy's the hero, and they've gotten a lot of traction out of leveraging that bias inside the person's consciousness. It's very, very unsettling.
And unfortunately, we've gotten somewhat used to, and it's sad to me to say that, it's disheartening that we've gotten used to President Trump doing this all the time. And it started the day he announced to be a candidate for president in 2015. If that's when, I think it's when it was, when he came down the escalator and talked about Mexicans bringing in drugs and rapists, and some of them are fine people. But, he really, from that point, was, governing through soundbite, not governing. He was campaigning through soundbites.
Campaigning through soundbite. Well done. Yeah, that's right.
And it's so we've gotten somewhat used to that. And even now, even at the Tulsa, Oklahoma rally, it was all about soundbites. There was very little truth he expressed in that entire, rally. It was all about getting out the sound bites and rallying his base.
Yeah, that governance through the governance and the promotion and of a soundbite narrative is, you can watch him do it on stage. He did it with so successfully. People don't understand how successful this is. He goes, COVID-19. What is the 19? What does the COVID, really mean? What does the 19 really mean? And people understand what the 19 mean. And the audience is yelling at him the answer. It's the year that the virus came out. They're giving him the answer. But what the audience doesn't know is they're being baited into loyalty that he has the truth, because then he shifts it over, and then he lets the audience do it, and then he rethinks the Kung Fu virus. And immediately
flu, yeah, he said the Kung
Flu
is that
virus. And then,
oh my gosh,
it's like, but the brilliance of that is that what a marketer is interested in doing, and what a brander is interested in doing, is saying, I have the answer and you're a participant in the answer. See, they're the participant. Their voice is being heard by him asking an open-ended question that he knows they know the answer for, and they will fill in the bias, and then he repeats the bias, and everybody goes, oh, that's funny and kind of true. Meanwhile, it's going like, yeah, and it's kind of racist too, or it's kind of not really fully true, because it's, you didn't protect us from this thing, where you're using this trauma thing, this crisis thing, to get us beyond the commercial break. I mean, every TV show, whether it's Rachel Maddow or anybody, they set up an anticipatory set so that you can work your way through the commercials to stay on the show to get the latest news. It's not like this is a mystery. It's called the hook. And he just baits the hook. He throws it out there, and the fish go ahead and get on the hook. And they say, yes, This is, yes, it's the Kung Flu. So
yeah, this Kung Flu label is blatantly racist. And the irony is, I think a lot of the Trump supporters at the rally there don't realize it's racist. They think it's amusing, that it's a joke.
right,
And, you know, that's, I guess, part of what is bringing us all down to a new level. It's very disheartening.
So I'm going to pretend I'm a newscaster right now, okay?
Okay.
And let's say Jake Tapper, okay?
Sure.
So I'm Jake Tapper, and I know that this person is going to come in here and try to talk about their sound bites, their talking points. And they're going to try to push their talking points. Meanwhile, the talking points are kind of true, but not really going to answer the question. The person's loaded with, here are the 5 things I want to say on this 3-minute segment. I mean, whether they come on Bill Maher, and this is why people come on the Bill Maher show, is Republicans come on there. They have courage to go on there. Why do they have courage to go on there? Well, because they're going to just talk about their sound bites and distract everybody off of the main message. And that's all their job is, to, I'm going to distract somebody off the main message, and I'm going to insert my sound bite. That's what I'm doing. That's my job. And they're disciplined about it. They're disciplined about just staying on the soundbite.
Yeah, because usually the moderator or the host of the show doesn't have your skills, Bill, to be able to call them out on or give them empathy and help them walk out on the plank.
Yeah, and then spray paint doubt or skepticism on their belief and go like, yeah, that's partially true, but really actually that's harmful. It's like, it's a harmful narrative. Yeah, it's partially true, but it's harmful. And if you're here to activate somebody's bias, could you please don't do that? And then all of a sudden the person goes like, I think the person just pulled my pants down. It's a little, it's a little embarrassing, but it's like, don't you activate somebody's negative bias in the middle of the show and create doubt here. Don't you do that.
Wow, boy, it'd be refreshing when they actually have a panel on the Bill Maher show. Again, it'd be refreshing if you're on there, Bill, because I would love to see how you don't let them get away with that. But the interesting thing, though, and what we're pointing out in this show today is that it is, soundbite campaigning or soundbite marketing, soundbite advocacy, right? And,
it's very hard.
Now what's really disheartening is in this House Judiciary Committee, what we saw there was soundbite governance. And that to me is so sad to see, because just it's so sad to see. So now take a breath and watch this, because you're going to get exasperated like I'm getting exasperated right now. So you got to take a breath, go. So exasperated. Why? The need for truth isn't being able to be seen or heard. Here's what happened. The conversation is not about what the person was testifying about. The conversation is about the behavior of the person that was banging the thing. It's not about, so the proportionality of reporting is going to be on his behavior. Just like you were getting hooked in that direction, as I was getting hooked in that direction, it's like this thing, that this message about corruption and or the politicization of the Justice Department is so much more damaging on whether or not he was banging on the table again. I am not interested in talking about him banging on the table. I will then empathize with him banging on the table. Yeah, it seems like he was really interested in 2 minutes ahead of the need for truth, and he was not interested in the need for truth out of the witness. He was more, or even the respect for the witness, he was more interested in following the rules of time because he was given extra time to complete his opening statement. That the chairman gave him extra time. See, the rules are only applied strictly to the Democrats and
the bar is different. The adjustment is different on the Republican side. Hillary Clinton had to limbo underneath the narrative of 30,000 emails, where Trump could literally walk under his limbo bar with all the different scandals that he did. It's like the bars are not really even. There's no measuring of a person's behavior. And that's what sound bites do, is the sound bite becomes the person's behavior instead of the sound bite of, I think he just said that the Attorney General has politicized the legal department, his, law office, the highest law office in the land. He's politicized this and asked for favors where that is not what you do in the legal department. The legal department gets, the law needs to be applied evenly to everyone, because the law is the only thing that checks power.
Right. But now, Bill, as we've often said on this show, you're explaining that. And explanation doesn't land. Truth doesn't land. These sound bites land. And that's one thing the Republicans are very good at, aren't they?
They really are. And I'm so glad you brought me out of the explanation narrative, because the explanation narrative doesn't allow us to do this one. Barr is associated with politicizing the legal system. First time that's ever been done. The first time political metrics are being applied to the legal system. Is that the direction in which America goes? America's new direction, the politicization of the Republicans are advocating the politicization of the Justice Department. New direction for America. That politics and favoritism works. And see how I'm working towards the soundbite? I am brainstorming towards the soundbite right now, because I need the lead. I need the lead sentence.
Well, now
I need the one that's so shocking that the nation goes like, "What just happened?" Favors and favoritism is given to the presidency above the legal system, like it hasn't been experienced in the past. New direction for America. New direction for America?
New direction for America. The law is whatever the administration in power wants it to be. I mean, that now you're going to start getting some people's attention.
And guess what it does? Is it brings the voters out. See, it's not bad that sound bites are used to hijack a person's bias, but my request is let's see if we can get sound bites to work in favor of truth. See, we got to purchase truth back. I mean, we've got to get it back to work, right? Sound bites are easy to digest. Let me just do the checklist here. They're easy to digest. They're easy to remember. Build the wall, lock her up, make America great. They're easy to remember. They're easy to brand. I could put it on the hat. I could put it on a t-shirt. I could put it on a bumper sticker. They're easy to promote. You can give the soundbite to anybody and they can say it. You can give the soundbite to a common man and woman to propagate to their friends. I was at a rally of Black Lives Matter on one side of the street and Trump supporters on the other side of the street. Black Lives Matters. Here's what gets yelled back. Here it comes. Watch this. Black on black crime. Because that is a narrative from the right side. It's a soundbite is, well, what about blacks having crimes on black people? What about that? The what about narrative, and you're shrugging your shoulders at your like things.
How is this relevant? The whole what about thing. How is that relevant?
Correct. Because they've been fed the belief that crime happens in Black neighborhoods. Well, why? It's not because a person because what would you do if somebody took away your freedoms and gave you no way out? Think of it this way. This is when it gets really strange, right? It really gets strange. Right. You take a community of color and you don't allow any good jobs to be in there, and you don't allow any economic development to take place, and you put them behind the 8 ball on work elements, and you have them get degrees and things like that. But even if you get the degree, you don't get paid as much as the other person does, because they can take advantage of not paying you as much and things like that. So you push down the income there, and you start taking away the freedoms. Okay, now watch. Wouldn't you think that if that same strategy was taken and put in a white community, that I'm sorry, you can't get this, you can't have that, you can't have that, that wouldn't white people rebel against their freedoms being taken place?
I would think so.
You would think so? Great.
Yeah.
That's what happened at the front of the state building of Michigan. You took away their haircuts. You took away their ability to go shop. You took away their things. That same thing has been happening to the Black community since slavery, that literally that's what's been happening. And we're wondering why there's violence there. Well, Look what happened. You took away haircuts because of COVID. It's like the worst weird example, but it's literally, and if we remember to increase sound bites that have a truth anchor to it versus sound bites that have a lesser truth anchor to it, then what happens is it's easy to rally behind. See, the soundbite is easy to rally behind.
Sure it is. And that's what allowed Louie Gohmert to hijack that hearing and the news cycle afterwards, because it wasn't at all about what the testimony was about. It was about the fact that he's tapping on the table, tapping on the microphone. And Fox News hailed this as, he's a patriot, he's a hero, he's fighting for us. When, 4 or 8 or 10 years from now, when the Republicans are in control of the committee, if they have control of the House and a Democrat were to do that, Hannity, who I'm sure right now hailed Louie Gohmert as a hero, is going to call whatever Democratic representative does that as being committing treason. Right. And they don't care one bit about the hypocrisy. That doesn't matter. They don't care about the fact checking.
A soundbite has a longer lifespan in a person's memory. All I got to do is say Willie Horton.
Yeah.
And everybody was orienting towards that soundbite. Revolving liberals want to let prisoners out so they can create crime towards other to do their crime again. It's like, no, they don't. But that answer is no help, because that's what the ad showed, is revolving doors. This is what liberals do, is they want the prisons to have revolving doors, and we want our communities safe. So, and that's the first step towards racism, right?
Well, in campaigning, we want messages to stick. And so the soundbite counting is real. And I think, the Biden campaign and all of the, Democrats running for reelection in the House and Senate better go to school on this and learn how to get their own soundbite messages to stick. But governing by soundbites, to me, is very scary escalation. And it's tapping that elephant brain, like we've talked about, of the people. That's right. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It gets it affects the emotional part of the brain and the safekeeping brain, because where safekeeping is where habit lives. So if you've reinforced the message of habit, and I'd really like newscasters to get a hold of this detail, is that you can easily shift a person's narrative, as soon as the person goes over, 7 to 13 words, you can actually see the direction in which they're going to try to hijack truth. And you can purchase it back with saying, so you're really talking about fairness. And the person goes, yeah, they can't finish their sentence. So you think fairness looks like this? And you ask it as a question mark, and the person goes like, well, yeah.
They have to say yes, don't they? Or otherwise,
yeah, they have to say yes, because now all of a sudden they can't contradict themselves and saying like, I'm not sure if that fairness is proportional. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we're going to have a deep conversation? Yeah, proportional fairness would look like this. Now, the newscaster is actually advocating for truth and actually framing what the person's saying is like, yeah, there's a little bit of red in your picture over there, but it's not the yellow that's in the predominant part of the thing. It's not a big thing, but I'll give it to you that it's a little thing, but it's not really a big thing. Louie Gohmert's banging is not a big thing. Louie Gohmert's banging is not a big thing. What's a big thing is the politicization of the Justice Department. That's the big thing. And on a scale of 1 to 10, it is clearly a 10. Now, that's not what's taking place from this moment right now, enthusiastically speaking right now. It's what's taking place is the creation of loyalty, the enrollment of emotion, and the realize that the bias is being realized and reinforcing inside the long-term memory of somebody that has already voted for Trump.
Yes. Well, and if all those messages do is to keep. Oh, sorry, it broke up there. If all those messages do is manage to fire up Trump's base, that's fine. If they start, because they're not going to be convinced to vote for anybody else anyway. But if they start infecting, the people in the middle, that 10 to 15%, that's how Trump can win. It's actually how either side can win, right? They need to sway enough people in their direction. Wow. Well,
that's right.
Goodness, yeah. Bill, I really appreciate your perspective on the soundbite. That is very important.
And the next time, let's take a look at how this process has got to go back, and we could go down and even do part 2 on how the soundbite purchases truth. And there's the examples are, you just got to look every day at the same time as like, and the person, it's hard not to get worked up. And I think the next time we've got to really try to provide support to our listeners and also to the people in news media as to how to start staring at this thing in a new way, because all of them regrettably try to build up the opposite evidence, and that's not what's important. What's important,
right?
Is,
battling it with the truth doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So
Bill,
more to come, Tom. This is a good one. All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this Purchasing Truth podcast. We trust that you have enjoyed this engaging and thought-provoking conversation. Our hope is that you've received value, found clarity, and broadened your truth perspective in this episode. If you did, leave us a review or visit our website, purchasingtruth.com. Join us again for another informative and content-rich discussion here at the Purchasing Truth podcast. Don't just accept whatever information comes your way. Join the discussion. Discover your own voice. Purchase your own truth.